Welcome to the Refreshing Leadership Podcast with me, Maya Goodker. And today I am sharing a video from inside my program. I wanted to share this one because unfortunately it is coming up too frequently in my coaching conversations, and I feel it is something that needs to be more widely discussed. I do want to caveat that I am not an HR professional. What I'm sharing here are some practical steps if you think you might be the victim of workplace bullying. Some practical things that I know that my clients, when they have talked to me about bullying, are the low-hanging fruit, the things that you can do to start to protect yourself and that can make a huge difference. They might seem like obvious things, and yet I have seen that they are not always happening, because one of the saddest parts about workplace bullying is that it's not often picked up by the system. And so that's my intro. This is a video that is something that you can watch along to. And I do recommend that you do that, because I actually have some slides with it because it is part of my curriculum. So you can go over to YouTube and you can look at it on Spotify as well, which shows the video version. And, feel free to, put a comment there as well if it's something that resonates or that you think could be practical. I actually think it's one of those things that we should all know about ahead of time, rather than when the bullying is actually taking place, so that we can pick this stuff up early. One of the sad things about bullying is that it's often allowed to get really awful, really bad. It's already started to impact the individual's confidence on a very severe level, and it can cause all kinds of health issues as well. I have worked with many clients now through this stuff, and that is why I want to share this video. If there's somebody that you know that is experiencing any of this at work, please share them with this, with the caveat, I'm not an HR professional, but these are things that have worked with my clients. So let's dive into today's video. So caveat first, I'm not HR and I'm also not a bullying expert, but I have come across bullying scenarios more times than I would like during my coaching, and I have seen some things that have been very effective when we have put them into practice, and so that's really what I'm sharing with you here. The first thing is that the interaction itself, right, the bullying interaction, is not something that is within your control as the victim to fix. So if these were the two circles, the locus of control, this is the stuff, the blue stuff, that we can control. You cannot reason with a bully. There is a saying that healthy people can have healthy relationships with other healthy people. Healthy people cannot have healthy relationships with unhealthy people. So if you're finding yourself repeatedly having poor quality interactions despite otherwise having good relationships with most other people, if you find that you're really struggling, just take a look at that individual and think about whether that is a healthy individual in the way that their behaviors are coming through, or whether there is something there that is not working, and something that they're not really willing to fix either. So what we're saying here is that the interaction itself, right, is not within our control, because if you are at the mercy of a bully, by definition, you cannot change the way that they are interacting, and therefore you cannot predict how that interaction is going to go. You cannot control that interaction. It is out of your control, and I really want to put that on the page and really emphasize that. Now, the thing that we can impact is the situation itself. So there are things that we can do to address the thing from happening. And unfortunately, I have not seen this being handled very efficiently or effectively by the system and the organization itself. And that's why we do need to take this proactively, especially if we are at the mercy of abusive behavior or bullying. And remember, this is a real spectrum. So it could be outright bullying, or at the other end, it could be lots of micro abusive behaviors that are accumulating over time that lead us to doubt ourselves, question ourselves, but not be completely sure. And this is why one of the steps that is so important if we're starting to notice these things creeping up is keeping that log. It's such an important step to take. So I hope that clarifies the difference between the situation itself, which is something that we do need to do something about, and the specific interaction with the bully, and that we differentiate the two from each other. Unfortunately, I see the two being conflated all the time. I have individuals sent to me for coaching because they're being bullied. So this is something that we deal with quite a lot, and that I will often then have interactions with the line manager and beyond about, to explain that this is not something that the individual can change their behaviors. The victim cannot change their behaviors to fix this. Do not underestimate the impact that bullying of any sort and abusive behavior has on our confidence. We could be otherwise very confident, self-assured people, and it will make us question ourselves, triple guess every communication we make towards that individual, waste our time, make us want to hide away and place. All of these things are things that my clients have told me that they feel, and the coaching has helped them to regroup on and realize that they need to not hide away, and actually they need to step forward and they need to keep moving on with their own careers. And the bully, cannot be, they don't want it to be we don't want the bully to let you stop developing your own career. In terms of contexts where I've seen this, I do see this, unfortunately, a lot happening in the public sector and not getting resolved very quickly in the public sector. But I've also seen it with my private sector clients as well. So this is not limited to one specific type of organization. In terms of some practical things that we can do, I have also shared the YouTube video, which also contains some real practical steps, even if you're not pregnant at work with a difficult boss, which was quite a specific challenge that I was addressing. If this is a topic that is impacting you, you may want to, like if bullying of any sort is impacting you, you may want to have a look at that video as well. But here are some practical things that have worked for my clients and have started to actually get a real stagnant bullying situation moving. Refuse to be alone in meetings with that individual, or without supervision, or without HR present. One of my clients did this after a coaching session with me, and after that, HR strangely started taking a lot of speedy action. One of the implications was that this was going to take a lot of their resource if they were going to have to be present at every meeting between the bully and the victim. And so instead, they started taking some more proactive action. So it can actually wake up the system a little bit, but also this stuff will impact your mental health, and therefore you shouldn't have to be thrown into the lion's den. Often the bully will be known to HR because you won't be the only one who will have experienced these behaviors. And so by you raising it, you're probably reinforcing something that has been a repeated pattern. It's unlikely that you will be the first person to have raised this. Now, the tricky part, though, is that despite the fact that this might have been raised, what I often see is at the top level, this is not known, because the bully will be very expert in managing upwards in such a way that it is very unclear to those at the very top levels what's going on, because they won't see any indication from this in their interactions. In fact, they'll see quite the opposite. I'm my position. When I raised it with my boss's boss, she was completely oblivious and quite shocked, and she was otherwise, a great leader, but she had been completely duped by the bully boss. So don't underestimate, it's very easy when you are the recipient of this to think, yeah, well, I've mentioned it to this person, I've mentioned it to this person. It's very easy for you to then think that everyone must know about this, but it's amazing what bullies will do, because they're often very aware of power dynamics. So it's amazing what they will have done when it comes to those who are influential in their careers, to hide this behavior from them. So do not assume that those at the top will know that this is happening, or even kind of believe it when they first hear it. They'll probably need a little bit more evidence. Just going back to this list of practical steps, don't engage in email exchanges again without others copied in. Again, this is just about protecting you from having to interact with this individual, knowing that those interactions are going to be very, very anxiety provoking and unproductive and waste your time and energy. You shouldn't have to engage in those anymore. The next thing, which is really important, is to start documenting what they're saying, the little things, how they said it, the impact it's had on you, feelings, and the impact it's had on your work. And, just keep this document going. When you're having meetings with them, if they start saying something to you, just take the time during the meeting to actually carefully write that stuff down. Slow down time and do that writing. Rather than responding to them, take the time, if they've said something to you, to just pause and just say, I just need to capture that. And that will also destabilize them a little bit once they know that you are documenting everything. But it really helps to create a bit of a buffer between you and the bully, because you are now starting to just record everything. You're becoming an observer rather than the victim of the bullying. And this is something that I was told when I was being bullied, and it worked absolutely beautifully, because you become so emotionally distraught when you are the recipient of bullying that it becomes hard for you to fully be able to convey everything in a structured way. And so what that can do then is it can reduce your credibility when you then do need to make a really clear case for what's going on. And that's why it's so much better to have a documented file, so that you can say, look, this is really hard for me to talk about. I've got it all here though. I've got dates and times and everything. And whilst I think it's important to be able to show emotion at work, it kind of gives a professional and credible edge to whatever it is that you need to say here. So it adds weight. You then have more of a neutral record, which will help you to communicate things more effectively. Other practical steps, we're looking to minimize our interaction with the bully. This is not you being a coward. This is not you not standing up to them. This is recognizing that this is an individual who does not want to change their behaviors. You will have tried to have normal interactions with them like you have with other normal, healthy people, but that will not have changed. You will have done some things. You will have probably had some slightly tricky conversations with them to try and resolve things. None of this will have made any difference. This is when we know that these are behaviors that are not going to change. They're not within our control to affect. And once that happens, and when we are receiving, real negativity as a result of this, this is the time to minimize. This is the time when we want to minimize our interaction. That means we're not really going to engage in reasoning with them. And unfortunately, I've had some clients who, once we've done the coaching around this, they've said, you know what, one of my big regrets is early on trying to reason with them too much, because I was treating them like I treat other interactions, where we want to thrash an issue out and get to the bottom of it and move forward constructively. What I didn't realize, because they present really well, the bully presents really credibly, they present in a really professional way, it was really hard for me at the time to know that they weren't to be reasoned with, because they are driven by other drivers, kind of like a big toddler with a massive ego. So whilst they look and speak really well, inside their head is crazy stuff going on in terms of they might be feeling under threat, they might need to cling to being right, they might be on a power trip, whatever those things are. And once those things are in play, it's very difficult for us to be able to reason with them, or it's basically impossible. So there's no real point trying. But what can happen is that because other people might not fully understand what's going on, they might think we, as the victim, are part of the problem. We might be encouraged to try all sorts of different approaches. And really, a lot of that can be wasted time and energy, and it's not really fair on you as the individual. So once we've got certain information and knowledge in place, and we've tried some basic approaches, we really do want to minimize our interactions with them, because we want to preserve our energy. Okay, the next thing, and this has been really effective, is that you want to be taking this to the highest level in your business as a business issue, because bullying is a business issue. It's not an HR alone issue. It has a business impact. It impacts performance. It impacts well-being. It impacts the ability for you to be able to do your job effectively. And so all of those business impacts might come together and be a more persuasive package at the higher level. So I think that framing that can be very valuable at that level. If you think about what a CEO or somebody quite very close to kind of the top of the organization, they are going to obviously need to be very, very mindful about the commercial performance of the business. And I say that even inside, it could be an NHS, it could be an NHS organization. They're still going to care about the performance issues at play. And so when you can take it as more of a business issue and say, look, I'm conscious that at your level, you might not be aware that this is going on. I've got a file full of all of the kind of the minutiae of what's going on and all the very, the gritty detail. But I wanted to make sure that you had a full awareness of what the impact of that is before it's too late. These are some of the things that are being derailed and being destabilized by these behaviors, they impact the way that we are being able to execute and deliver these projects. They might have some other retention issues, etc. And put it into a business language. That's not to say that you can't demonstrate any emotion. You can say, look, I might be better at showing a bit of emotion around this. This has obviously had a big impact on me, but I want you to just have the full awareness that this is going on, because my suspicion is that this is being hidden from the top level in the organization. And when you do it in that way, then you can make it more about them, the CEO or the top person and their interests, and you're playing to their interests in getting this, taken very seriously. And I found that to be a lot more effective for my clients. And I've also found it very effective for myself personally as well. So I hope all of that helps. This is, if this is something that you're going through right now, then my heart absolutely goes out to you. As I said, don't underestimate the impact that this will have on you and your well-being. And hopefully from this, you can see that there are steps that you can take. And of course, once you've taken all of the steps, if there is, a categoric refusal to deal with the issue at a systemic level, then that will tell you a lot about the organization. And at some point, you'll be able to make a smart decision about whether that is the organization for you. But let's really make sure that we have a full understanding first and that we've done this basic hygiene, because typically when I have started working with clients and they are experiencing some sort of bullying, they haven't necessarily taken these steps yet. All right. Thank you for watching or listening to this episode. I hope you found it helpful. If you did and you realized that you need more of this stuff, I have an entire curriculum on all of this, and it takes you through in a really systematic way. And what I like about this is that you could take this stuff into any organization and it would just give you such a strong foundation and a way of being able to go about your different aspects of your role inside all kinds of different cultures of organization. So if this is something that you found helpful, you can click the link in the show notes and you can find out about my different programs. All of my programs come with short curriculum videos and then one-to-one coaching with me. If that's of interest, the link will be in the show notes, and I look forward to connecting with you next time. Don't forget to share this with at least one person that you think could benefit. That is the real impact that we can make when it comes to bullies and bullying in the workplace. And there might just be one tip in here that really makes all the difference for somebody who is struggling at work. So please do share this link with them. I look forward to connecting with you next time. Bye-bye.